All right. Do one on nature in relation to Pike, because fuck it. Morals and dogma. Grand summation. Keep the morals, drop the dogma. Pike said in his book, nature is the greatest teacher. Not Mother Nature, not Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, anything else. The precise wording is, nature is the greatest teacher. Fine. What the fuck does that mean? Well, if you hold it up to Eastern philosophy, you got like the ninja, you got the blind swordsman, you got the monks, Western and Eastern. They all go up onto a mountain. They all go to a retreat. They're all surrounded by nature, except for there's a few exceptions. I mean, even like Sun Tzu, Kang Ming, Lao Tzu, they're like, surrounded by nature. The monks, surrounded by nature in Western. Merlin, he's off in the woods. The auspices, they're on they're on the field of Mars. They're watching birds. All these dudes, these shamans, spiritual leaders, whatever, they're connected with nature. So that falls in line with pretty much, everything that was, that's been written about it. Nature is the greatest teacher. What are the implications? The implications are, there are just some lessons you're not going to get in college. You're not going to go to an Ivy League school for plants. What is this, a school for plants? Ivy League? What am I, a fucking vine here? You're not going to go to a school for plants and learn the teachings of nature. You know what I mean? You're not going to go into a desk environment with papers and fucking scribblings, or even science experiments, DEI, plagiarism, whatever they're teaching over there. It's just not going to happen, So, nature is the greatest teacher. So, you go for a walk in the park. That's what we got for nature over here. You look at the ocean. You look at the sky. You got the night sky, you got the day sky. Some people think, stars only come out at night. Untrue. The stars are always there. It's just during the day, our closest star kind of makes us forget about the other stars. They're still shining up there. Our star is like the narcissist of our solar system. You know what I mean? When it's facing our planet, it wants all the attention. Look at this. Look, I'm the closest star to you. You don't have to worry about them other stars till I go away. You know what I mean? Sometimes the moon will come out when the sun's out. That's pretty dope. What that signifies, I have no idea. But when this motherfucking sun comes up, it's like, guess what? For most people, it's like, hey, wake up. For the birds and the animals, the rooster crows in the morning. The rooster's like the sun's boy. You know what I mean? Animals are out hunting, people are gathering berries or shopping for shoes. The sun, our closest star, is, our attachment to nature. In the city, we have scattered trees and we have a lot of birds. We have a lot of birds on almost every street. Even in Lower Manhattan, you'll still see a couple birds here and there. And we also plant trees to pretend like this whole city isn't an abomination to nature. So that's nature in like a raw sense. There's the rocks, the wind, the oceans, the water, Earth, wind, I guess fire. You could learn about it through that way. Forest fires, brush fires. We had a few of those. Letitia James had to remind people not to run into the brush fires. That's how dire the situation is here in New York City. It's like, listen, if you see a brush fire, like don't go into it. You know what I mean? It's not like you're on the subway train and someone's like lighting you on fire. Don't walk into the fire. Okay. Earth, wind, fire, water, whatever airbender stuff. There's also human nature. Human nature, we are all just animals. Monkey, person, Darwin, we're all animals. We're subject to be trained like animals. We're subject to act like animals. Some people more than others. And that's that falls into the balance. There's what society can teach you. There's what nature can teach you. Now, what Pike believed is that there is society, but nature is the greatest teacher. So, is college really worth it? Is it more than a scam these days? That's up for debate, but I think a lot of people who are in a lot of debt would tend to have a bone to pick with saying that society is a greater teacher than nature at this point. So that is the nature of nature, and then it's like, since nature is the greatest teacher, in society, I can get to know my teacher. You know what I mean? Some get to know their teachers a little too well, and some teachers get to know their students a little too well. With nature, it's like, how well can an individual human actually know nature? And if you throw that back to attunement and the unknowable, a divine unknowable, I've come to the conclusion that it's like a yes, no, maybe so. That humans, and like citing Daniel Hoffman, who was on Lex Friedman like years ago, citing Daniel Hoffman, like our human perception is limited due to evolution, due to our very nature. You know what I mean? And that ties in again with Pike in humans being imperfect. So it's like a whole thing that is interconnected. There's synchronicity within these three tenets itself. The three major takeaways, but there may be four, I forget. But his three basics, where he basically says you don't need shit other than these three or four things. You know what I mean? So nature is the greatest teacher. It's important to remember that. I find it to be true. When I seek validation on anything, if I have a question, some people shake a magic 8-ball. Some people go straight to the AI, which, not bad. I go to nature. I'll go out into the park, and I'll look, and I'll see if I see anything. Even in the car. If I have a question that comes to mind, a notion, I'll look around and see. Sometimes I'll see like a black crow. Sometimes I'll see a fucking hawk. You know what I mean? A lot of times with me, it's birds, because I'm attuned for the old Roman tradition of auspice. Like, what should I do in this situation? And I'll see a bird floating on the wind in a specific way. And it's like, all right, that bird is gliding. I need to just chill and glide high for a little bit here. You know what I mean? Buy myself some time and conserve my energy. Sometimes that's what you gotta do. And sometimes the birds can tell you that. Whether it's a quantum dynamic in that because you observe the bird is acting to your intent and acting out the answer to your question, or it's the inverse. The bird also sees you and divines your intent. That's, it may be a two-way street in that respect. Many things are. Many things that don't appear to be a two-way street actually are, in fact, a two-way street. Unless you encounter a one-way street societal motherfucker. You know what I mean? A predator, a liar, piece of shit. Very common. Say 99% of the population is ignorant piece of garbage. It's just the way it is. There's a reason the 1% are the 1%. And I don't just mean monetarily. Like, the numbers of people who are actualized and awake are very, very low. So if you're, one of them, consider yourself lucky or unlucky. It's a double-edged sword, a blessing and a curse, and a two-way street at the same time, due to the nature of quantum. You know what I mean? Being able to navigate the straight and narrow as a complete individual through the teachings of nature is something I'm learning as I go. You throw balance into the mix, which for me came later. I haven't read anything in Pike denoting balance, merely those tenets, because that's what my synchronicity demanded. That's what my own nature demanded. I took the morals and I ditched the rest of the dogma. Like most other magic books, you can find exactly what you need and then not safely discard the rest. It's important to, devil's in the details, as they say. Nature is the greatest teacher, in conjunction with attuning to a divine unknowable. Those two things are very, very powerful. You can practice them. The guy looks like Hide My Pain Harold. And you can practice them at your leisure. The thing is, if you start to become elevated, people might start freaking out around you. That's kind of the problem with this sort of magical practice. Like without the space, without the time, and the inclination, and you do kind of need. You don't necessarily need a clear head, and it's also actually a pathway to get peace of mind. But just take caution. Like if you start elevating, if you start spiraling up, also realize you can spiral down. That's not a bad thing, because like a bird may extend its wings to stop itself in air, and then it'll just fall onto a piece of food or whatever. It's important to keep the feet on the ground, so you're not just completely detached. But like Sun Tzu says, it's the slightly detached warrior who beats ass. So maybe find a little bit of detachment before you start going in deep. Music, transcendental meditation, in conjunction with remembering those two tenets. And then if you throw in the third one, to stay humble, to remain humble, to realize that it's not all about you. Because if you're suffering from narcissism or stuff like that, you will get, people will come out of the woodwork for validation, to give you validation you're seeking. And it's like mirror, mirror on the wall thing. The mirror to the evil queen is just telling her what she wants to hear. That's due to the nature of the synchronicity. It's all an eminence front, as the Who says. It's all like a show. It's a put on as appeasement. People don't even understand why. They just can sense it off of you. If you have that kind of pull or push, people will sense it off of you and simply try to appease you so they can be on their way, or try to manipulate you, this and that. And if you're the narcissist, it's the other way around. You're seeking people for approval. So humility is important, like true humility, not just like the feigned demure and this and that. It's why a lot of people wind up going off the rails or crashing out, or however it's said, or splitting up, getting cooked, whatever the case may be. It's these are particular reasons. Others might get the notion that, like, hey, this guy's gonna get above me. You know what I mean? I've been working on this for fucking whatever. If you're humble about it, you'll be humble enough to know that you've done nothing wrong, and you won't be humble about defending yourself. You won't be humble about, like, purifying yourself and making sure that, if the individual is truly humble, they'll have no scruples about snapping a few necks to defend themselves and what they believe, and hopefully the morals they carry. I mean, there's much beyond that, but nature being the greatest teacher, and attunement to a divine unknowable, together in conjunction, very powerful mindset, very powerful things to remember. As always, be careful. Make sure you have a roof over your head. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Make sure you can eat. You're taking care of your day-to-day responsibilities. It's like, it's practical magic. We're not going full-blown fucking, off-the-rail sorcery here. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be that way. Just like every other disclaimer, use caution, use wisdom. Wisdom is super, super important. Because even though nature is the greatest teacher, it's not always. Nature is a wise teacher, because usually you only be able to see what you're ready to see due to the nature of one's own brain. You can only perceive what you're ready to perceive. It's usually how it works. There's like natural fail-safes within nature itself. But some wisdom, there's a lot of people who give wisdom or give advice, but you really want to listen to, as far as people who are concerned, people who can take their own advice. Taking your own advice is like super, super clutch. And if you can find somebody who can take their own advice, maybe consider them part of nature too, because they conquered their own human nature, or whatever, if they want to consider themselves human or something else. If one can conquer their own nature, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. If one could fucking become one with nature and then conquer that, you're like on a whole new level. Honestly, you're really at the point where you could be like, fuck all this, I'm above all this shit. You really don't have to take consideration for much. You know what I mean? Other than if you want to, which would be wise, to respect society. If one lives in society, if you're, a part of society, or merely a guest, it's wise to respect aspects of society. That's that might be a societal aspect, but like, if you're not like a fucking tribesman out in the woods, like, put clothes on, you know what I mean? Wash your ass so you don't stink if you're gonna be around people. Like, if you have a job, play the game, the job game or whatever, even if it's bullshit. I'm just doing this for now. You don't have to explain too much. Watch your six. Standard practice, standard workplace procedure. But, you can always in private be attuning yourself and learning from nature to just, learn how to get over these workplace hassles and qualms as a practical sort of magic, or philosophy, not necessarily a doctrine or anything like that. It's nothing too serious, just little techniques, you could even consider them psychological techniques rather than magic itself. It's just a cipher, it's just semantics. That's probably for another video, semantics and how that falls into, the founders never picking a language and stuff like that, but that's for another video. Anyways, that's nature is the greatest teacher. Couple that with attunement and see where it takes you. Okie dokie.